Hey friends, it's Kev and I'm here with Lola.
Hey
Yeah.
everyone.
We wanted to be with you today just to cut through the noise real quick and think about having a list and communicating as you never know how much people are paying attention. But hopefully you're here to check out get paid to ask questions. And here's why we feel like this is so relevant and we're both so excited about it as we dig into it further. As you'll see on the sales page here, this is what Lola's been doing for the last few years. As her career, this is how she's transitioned. And it comes down to the simple concept of being a creative partner. Now, for me, what has me so excited about this is it's very much the same work we do as direct response copywriters. You think about it, you need a lot of information from your client to do the work you need to do. But it's often hard to get them to give you all the information you need. This sort of flips that script. And because you're the creative partner, the arrangement is you get 60 minutes with the founder of the company, and then you conduct that interview in a certain way that that's where we're going to focus and teach you the art of that interview. And then it's really easy and fast to create at least a month's worth of content from that 160-minute conversation. So it's very much the work we're used to doing. But the cool thing about it is we can automate the process appropriately without losing the human touch. AI is not writing any of this 100%. They're hiring you to be the representation of their voice, of their meaning, of their heart. Because for founders, think about it, it's not the same as writing a landing page where it's only being judged on how well it converts. This, founders, Lola, are making big deals. They take longer, but they need to be omnipresent and relevant all the time. And that's where the creative partner comes in.
Right. And a lot of founders are very busy actually building their company. If you're a freelancer, you get that. Like the hardest thing to do is take the time to market yourself and sell yourself like everyone says you're supposed to. And that's the same across the board, whether you're a creative who's making your money from writing or whether you are a creative who's a founder building a company. That same kind of mindset is very difficult to overcome. And that's the power of being a creative partner. The other thing that I want to make very clear before we get into too much of like the nitty-gritty of this, we're going to go into, by the way, the industry as it exists today, as far as writing goes, how it's being impacted by AI, and why this role is such a perfectly positioned place for writers to get into. But one of the concepts that I've been thinking about a lot is the fact that writing is encoded communication.
Mm.
And one thing that we're changing, and one thing that is changing because of AI, is the way we communicate is changing. And writers are ideally suited for
Mm.
kind of figuring out what writing looks like and what skills are actually needed because writing is this skill of breaking down communication and being able to understand how to put it back together and put a story into place that another person can understand and resonate with. So that's why creatives are so perfectly positioned for being amazing in this type of role. The other thing I want to make clear is this is more like an executive role than anything else. If you play it right, you are the direct partner to this person who you're working with. You are the conduit of their voice from their brain into the real world. And you can become one of their biggest advisors and one of their closest partners if that is the type of person that you are and if that's the type of skill set that you're looking to build. So, if this is something that's interesting to you, we just want to get in today and basically explain
Yeah.
a little bit more of the nitty gritty of why it's valuable.
Yeah. One other thing that it often brings to mind for me, the role of, say, a speechwriter
Yeah.
or, right, like politicians, CEOs, they all have their speechwriters and they value them. Like that's their person. This is the person that I need the right words for this situation. And that's the person they trust to do it. So it's very akin to that.
I had a client who needed to have some type of message get out on election day. And it's obviously a very difficult topic. There's no way that you can say something without feeling political. And I just got on the call with her and I was like, so what are you feeling? Like, what's going on? She's like, man, my heart is just heavy.
Mm,
And I used that as the opening line
mm,
for the post to go out. And it ended up being like, it wasn't a political post, but it was one that a lot of people resonated with because of that. And it was about just getting to the real raw situation and saying, like,
right.
what's actually going on here?
The real
That's the
human
job.
part. Right. And that's what comes across and breaks through. And like you said, writers are uniquely, they live in that space all the time. We see meaning, we look for meaning, we look to get meaning across in everything we do. And again, as we'll see here as we go through, it's just what we all know that AI cannot do. Nobody's questioning whether AI can replace that or not. So
That's
our
right.
creative journeys, everybody probably knows, I did stand-up comedy for 10 years. It turned out to be a really good time, but a training ground for what I would ultimately be in life, which is a writer and a copywriter and a resonance writer, someone who, stood in front of strangers, 4 or 5 nights a week, and spoke to them. And my job was to get a reaction. It happened to be laughs in that format, but the last thing you want is people looking bored, or the worst thing a comic can hear is the stirring of a drink, the ice cubes. It's the worse than any heckle, or groan. And so that was great training for me to get that across when I'm sitting at the keyboard.
Mhm.
So deep listening, the art of the perfect question. You think about it, like every joke, every story you tell live on stage starts with a question. Why are things like this? Why do we
Mhm.
do this? If you go back to all comedy, that's why we laugh, is because we've wondered that, but never taken the time to unpack it or twist it or relate it to something else. That's the art of stand-up comedy, and it's the same creative process we use in copy.
Yeah. Selling ideas. Right.
Yeah.
And another way to look at the resonance writer or the creative partner concept is like you're selling a person and their ideas to the world. And really that's what you're doing as a copywriter, as a comedian, and in a lot of other creative fields if you get down to the nuts and bolts of what make it up. And for me, I mean, obviously most of you know me. A lot of you don't know my full story. And this skill set is the thing that has helped me build my entire career. I dropped out of high school at 17 years old, went through, did an alternative education program, which connected me to the startup space, which connected me to marketing. And that's how I got led into the field of copywriting and writing. And obviously, with AI having changed so much, I've just been listening, learning as much as possible, just like every other writer. And I feel like I've landed on this skill as being the thing that's kept my career going throughout all of the AI craziness. And I also think it's something that writers, again, are ideally suited to continue building. And if it's a skill set you learn how to leverage, there are endless applications
Yeah.
for it.
100%. By the way, I had a lovely exchange with your mother. She's
Okay,
just,
that's awesome.
it's so cool, because, and I had to tell her, whenever I hear you talk about being the oldest of 8 kids and how much your siblings mean to you, I just always think of her. I told her, I said, it takes a lot of love to nurture great people, not just kids. Like, oh, my kids are great. These are you're grown people
Yeah.
now, and you're doing amazing things. So it's really inspiring.
Yeah, and we talked about your mother's influence on your creative career back in our podcast as well. I think parents have a lot of an impact on who we end up becoming.
No doubt.
So one thing that founders face that I talked about, but it's also that all of us writers face. I've talked to you about it a lot, Kevin. We've coached accelerator members a lot about this kind of thing, and it's that we want to write. Like for me, the value of my career is in learning new things. I like breaking into new industries and understanding how they work. I like understanding how the different pieces play together and the different people work together in an industry. I like understanding the messaging and the storytelling. I don't want to have to be constantly talking about myself. Frankly, it feels icky. It doesn't feel right. I have to obsess for hours over the social media posts and things that I put out for myself. It can be very difficult to sell yourself. I know that you've seen this even to a greater extent than I have.
Yeah, I have the same thing. You know, even though I've been a leader and I've been visible and it's part of my job to give my opinions and things. I when I'm writing about other people, it's easy for me. When
Mhm.
I somebody says I need you to make a video about this or that, I get all in my head about it. And so, you know, I think creatives in writers, it's our natural setting to tell stories about other people and things we saw with. And this is nice because you can still do that. And if you want to have a personal list and do those things, but again, we're, as we'll get into, this is the conflict we have. It's like, this is not me. I don't want to have to compete and worry about how many likes or comments my posts get. I just want to be the, like you said, the creative conduit to somebody who needs that. But everybody struggles to talk about themselves. And it's just much easier for us writers to talk about other people than ourselves.
Agreed. And what this has allowed me to do is like the work is behind the scenes, right? The work still shines, right? It's not your name that people are seeing attached to that, but you can always like you still have the thing that you can point back to that you created. But it's also really valuable because with this skill set, it becomes very easy to simply attach everything that you have learned from this client that you're working on and just use it on your own social media. So instead of having to talk about yourself constantly, you're just documenting the things that you're learning and the things that
Right.
you're already working on and the skill set that you've already built. And I think that's where it becomes massively valuable. Again, I like to go deep in the work that I do. I know a lot of other people do, but it can be very, very difficult when you also have to sell yourself because that's the way to become known. With my social media, I think there are probably 6 or 7 posts on it. I've only been back on social media for about 6 months. And I haven't had to use social media or selling myself or cold emails or cold calls or any other type of like outreach to make my money full time since 2021. It's always been through this kind of subtle stealth type of activity. And I think that's the value of being able to learn how to play this ghost or behind the scenes role really well. It means that you lean into the skill that you naturally have. You don't have to feel inauthentic or icky or show up in a way that's not like you, but you're simply learning how to document your work and then doing the work behind the scenes. And I think that's the real power of it, in my opinion.
For sure.
I wouldn't mind if you give a little bit of an overview of what you've seen change in the copywriting world specifically. I've seen things from one side, which is like working with founders across the fintech and nonprofit industries mostly. But what are you seeing in the writing field as AI has come on the scene?
You know, for direct response copywriters, it's been a bit devastating, honestly. You know, the all the companies and particularly the traditional direct response clients, unless you land you know, an in-house gig with a big client like we've done, say with Rich Sheffrin or Jeff Walker in the goods, everybody was competing for the mid-level jobs, and all those company owners are doing their best to get AI to replace the copywriter. Understandably, they've heard this can happen. They've been told, they've been sold prompt packs that can do it. And what I find is the savviest ones, they go on this pendulum and they go all the way and they get really excited, and then they finally see that no, there's limitations. It's not converting, even though it looked great. It didn't convert. So what's missing? And then they go back to find a copywriter, but they have a different criteria when they come back. They say, I want you to be AI savvy. I want you to maybe even help me build a system, but I need your human touch. I need you to represent my voice in the way that resonates. The problem is we can't wait for the entire industry to come back. from that. Not all of them will come back. So as a result, while everybody goes and explores what's possible with AI and large language models, is that the work is drying up. And so I've seen several copywriters who have been in this industry decades quit and go into other industries, or even take kind of like real jobs, because they're just frustrated with trying to constantly convince their clients that they're still needed, because the only way they're going to be convinced is when they go find out. And so it's really been, I've seen it myself with, my one of my monikers is the most connected person in copywriting. And that means that for a long time, there was always a steady flow of people coming to me asking me to recommend a copywriter. And that's really slowed down. I've seen it myself. So I can only imagine I know what it's been like for the freelancers I coach to wonder, where's all this headed? Is it going to come back in a new way? How do I position myself to remain relevant? And so, that's what I've seen. The good news is that I feel like we're finally, everybody's sort of at the same place with the conversation of, it's very clear where AI stops and the human is needed. But like I said, not all the clients have come all the way back. Some of them are still searching and exploring. And so my mission has become, what are the all but guaranteed places where a creative writer is still clearly needed, and there's no question around that. You don't have to convince your client. You could try this with AI, but it's not going to work. And when it comes to this, when the art of the interview, that 60 minutes of getting that content out of them, is the crux of it. There's no question. No one can imagine sitting and having that same conversation with AI prompted questions and having it doesn't flow, it doesn't wander. There's not a conductor saying, tell me more about that, or moving on from a topic when they know they have what they need already. AI just doesn't have that sense. It's not human. It doesn't understand the art of a conversation. It can't mimic it. So this is the one thing I found so far, and this is why you and I both really just started geeking out when we looked at what the art of asking good questions can do. And it's just, nobody's questioning whether the human is needed in this or not.
Yeah, 100%. And I think one thing that's worth noting that's here on the slide as well is that partly because every company is trying to figure out how to use AI with this writing thing in the background, everyone knows that AI can quickly get out 1,000 words in just under seconds. And so the perceived value of that output for a lot of people is going down, right? The perceived value per word or per piece that you create. Now they can't see what actually makes that sell, or understand what makes a post get engagement, or what actually gets an idea to resonate with people. That's what writers are good at. That's what we've trained our entire lives to do. And it comes back to this idea of writing being encoded communication. You are already farther ahead than the average person because you have this skill set, because you've been working on this skill set. Now it's just to figure out how to apply that in today's world. And when it came to interviewing, I noticed a couple things. One, if you have a really, really good interview, the story arc comes out on its own normally if you're guiding the conversation the right way. And that story arc is more valuable to the end sales page, content, whatever you're ending up creating, than any other piece that you could give AI, because AI might be able to figure out how to persuade by adding in a couple things, or maybe to mix your message around a little bit to be better suited to your audience. But AI can't find the story arc of the founder where like their dad starting a bakery in Peru is like the whole reason that they learned how to become this entrepreneur that they are. Like that's not something that you're probably going to give to ChatGPT unless someone reminds you how important it is. And that is what makes this interview so valuable. But there's another piece that is valuable because of the writing landscape today, and it's the fact that that interview is also data at this point. And that data, again, is more valuable for the sales page or the landing page or whatever you're ending up creating than anything else. And it's going to make the ultimate output that you create, whether you use AI or not, much, much more valuable. And so if you're focusing on creating the highest value possible in this data that you're creating along with the client, the output that you create for them in whatever message you want to make in whatever format or channel you want to use is going to be ultimately stronger. And I think that's where our edge lies.
For sure.
So what we're talking about here is basically what Kevin coined a resonance writer. How did you come up with that idea again?
Well, I was just thinking about what is it that we bring? What's the word, right? And um, landed on resonance because, again, what cuts through the noise? That, the volume of content has multiplied before everybody's eyes, and we've all seen the quality just diminish. So much of it is pure AI. Not only writers can see the difference, but the market can see the difference. It just feels different. And what it's missing is resonance. It does not resonate. It does not strike you. It doesn't make you sit up and lean in. It's not something you're going to repeat at the dinner table. And so that's why I landed on that word, because, again, like a true writer just sees the world in a certain way. They want to have conversations with everybody they're talking to about meaningful things. And those are the things that resonate.
So the skill set that I see making up this type of person is a combination of writing and which we all know you already have, the marketing and content strategy, but marketing strategy I think is the overall umbrella. Copywriters already have that, especially if
Right.
they've been working at a higher level and like kind of moving their careers along as AI has allowed us to build a more bird's eye view of the writing field. And that final skill set is interviewing, and that's the piece that is very, very difficult to find. Again, because most of us like to be behind the scenes as writers. However, this came from my junior copywriting training at several different agencies that I would have worked with. And when you're a little man on the totem pole and like you are the one who is doing all of the grunt work for this entire operation, what you need to do is like get the information as easily as possible from the customers who you're wanting to sell to. And in these interviews with customers for things like, you know, random Pilates products, and like I was working in every space possible, health and random financial products and things like that, just learning as much as possible. And it was always these interviews with the customers where I was able to get the most insight for the research that would ultimately become the lead and the sales letter later on for the senior copywriters. I think that truth is still there today. And I think that because AI is in the background and is remixing so many of the same old ideas, you being the person to get new ideas from someone else's head to use along with AI or with your creative mind, it makes all of the difference.
100%. Yeah. And that's, um, yeah, I'll go into that after this slide because this is important context.
Kevin, you laid out the things that you also see make someone be naturally qualified. Because one thing that we've talked about is there's a core skill set here, but it might not be for everyone, right? I
Yeah.
think that the core skill set that you need to have as far as hard skills is right here. You've got the content strategy or marketing strategy, got the writing, and you've got the interviewing. Those are the three hard skills, in my opinion. And then there are these natural qualities as well that I think you've noticed
Yeah.
maybe in other people. Would you mind diving into that a little?
Yeah. This is sort of a innate soft skills, right? A genuine curiosity about people and their stories. So if you're the kind of person who finds yourself at the 4th of July barbecue or a cocktail party locked in with one person for 45 minutes, and because you're probably asking them a lot of questions, you're interested in their stuff. Well, how did that happen? And how did you guys meet? Or you want to hear, it's just your natural instinct to get the story. And then I think what we're doing as we're having those conversations is in the back of our head as writers, we're thinking, how would I tell this story? Oh, that's a key piece. Oh, they sort of brushed over that part, but I had to go deeper into that because I think that's the most intriguing part. Um, and then understanding and having gone through the process of where does AI fit for me and my process as a writer. We'd be foolish to not embrace it, and it doesn't take a lot of tinkering around to see how much it can speed up your process. But if you're really caring about the output, you again see where it falls short. So we've been through the same swing that our clients are going through with a different agenda. For us, it's about what does the ultimate output look like. And so I know you're going to teach this in the workshop, Lola. It's like how you interact with AI is completely up to you. You may be the kind of person who wants AI to give you an outline or first draft, and you'll. I was just talking to Stuart yesterday. That's what he does. Is he says, give me what you think, and then he completely rewrites it with his own words, which guarantees it's never going to feel or sound like AI. Other people like to write their sort of dirty first draft and then let AI assist with the editing. It's really an amazing tool for getting the Flesh Kincaid read scores. It's like, oh, this is at a grade 10 level. I need to get it down to like seventh grade, sixth grade, right? And it can quickly make those suggestions. So wherever it fits into your process is your option, but it's important that you've done some work back and forth with it to identify that. And then you have to be very organized, and you have to be kind of cool to work with, and reliable. I think it's something that another thing that writers undermine about their qualities, their value, is being dependable, being reliable. And that doesn't mean being at the mercy of the whims of a client. Another great thing about this, Lola, and is say you're a launch copywriter. Launch week is in the week leading up to launch. Everybody has to agree. Like, you may not sleep, your family may not like you this week. It's just, we need your full attention because things are going to change fast. And it's hard. It's really difficult to disrupt your life that way. This process eliminates all that because you have your scheduled interview, you show up for it, and then you have what you need to go do your work, right? So it's much more controllable. It's easier to be organized. But if you're just the kind of person who lives in la la land, and you forget things and you don't have a system for your own productivity, it's going to be a challenge for you. You need to have that quality. So those are the four main things that stand out to me as natural qualities.
And will be a lot of these can be nurtured, I think, right? Like you can
Mm-hmm.
have the base level of them, but it's going to change. Like I had the organization, I think I kept the client communication. If you keep that up, you have a little bit of room to figure out the organization side of
Yeah.
things as you're figuring out your AI process, for example. One thing that we will be talking about in this workshop specifically is how to build an ideal tech stack to manage things in the background with AI. I'm not going to say that you should use mine. I'm just going to show you the tech stack that I have and how I implement those tools and the strategies that I use to approach AI so that you can take what you need from that and apply it to your business. So we will be talking about that side of things. The thing that makes this niche so cool is the fact that there's so much opportunity in the niche right now. Um, Founder-led content marketing is a big topic in general in the fintech space, across software as a service, across a lot of other industries, and many more people, even in like traditionally quiet industries like law and the medical field and things like that, are starting to realize the value of having a face for the company, leading the company mission online in one way or another. That's across a lot of different channels, but in general, this strategy works because people trust people. If you've gone through the goods or any of our other programs that have come through since AI, you'll notice a lot of this idea repeating itself, which is that human to human connection, human ideas, that's going to be what wins out. Founder led content is that thing, which means that you are not only investing in a skill that can help you outlast AI, which is interviewing, but you're investing in a specific niche of work that is going to be desperately needed for the next while as people continue to move more toward trust in humans and away from trusting technology 100% in the way that we interact with people. So it's proven that 78% of customers trust content from founders more than like a typical branded content. A lot of founders, however, struggle to create that personal content, just like all of the rest of us do, which is where you come in. And then in general, there's so much higher engagement on founder content versus company posts on any social platform in general, because most company posts on Meta or LinkedIn or other social platforms are 100% there so they can make ad revenue off of you. So the advantage to a personal account means that you have this one personal face for the business instead of needing to constantly sell ideas through a branded account that no one really knows much about.
Yeah, and I want to point out one other really cool thing is that, you mentioned fintech and law and these other industries. The beauty is, unlike DR, you don't have to become an overnight expert in that field to write effective copy. You need to be the one who maybe doesn't quite understand all the things about it so that you can represent the audience in asking those questions and getting clarity on, a lot of times the jargon, industry jargon comes into play and people are spouting out acronyms and things. And part of the residence writer's job is to say, what exactly does that mean? And explain it to me like I'm, a kindergartner. And again, that's been one of the things I've always brought to my projects as a freelancer is explain it to me like I've never heard of this before. And it gets them to sit back and go, oh yeah. And that's how you grow an audience, by inviting people in and not trying to be too smart for the room.
That's a really good call out. Yeah, I think the that's also the ideal way to start building a client base in a specific industry. If you have an area of expertise in that industry, or if you have a little base of knowledge that you can get that, land the first client, do really great work for them. You learn that you understand the industry well, you're good at building a new story in the industry. That's the best way for new people to find you because all they need to ask is, how the hell is this founder getting this amazing
Right.
content out? And then all they need is like, oh yeah, I've got this ghostwriter behind the scenes, and that's how you get your second client.
Yep.
So I have tested the opportunity myself here, and part of the reason that we are teaching this workshop is because there is so much demand. I can't keep up with it. I know a lot of other ghostwriters out there that can't keep up with it, and the difficulty is that it's always hard to find good writers. And this kind of niche, ghostwriting is one way that it was referred to. Personally, I see ghostwriting, copywriting, PR as all kind of coming into very much the same role at this point. But either way, for this role, I was working on about 10 different client accounts that were bringing in $40,000 a month in revenue for the agency that I was working for. This was around 2022. And since then, have been working with clients and in 2024 closed around $30,000 of reoccurring monthly contracts in this space that, let's see, I closed them within 90 days of starting ghost mode
Mm,
for this type of contract. And personally, I can't keep up with everything. Like I've scaled back on the amount of clients I'm working with to hone in this process that I'm about to teach everyone because I knew like the demand is there. You can't just load up a bunch of clients and then make it work. You have to
right.
have a process in the background.
Right.
But it is insane how many people want this kind of partner, but don't know where to find them. The demand is heavy. It's right there.
Yeah.
And then I think what we've been talking about so far is that you have the skill set. If you're a copywriter, you've got the content strategy and marketing strategy skill set. You obviously have the writing skill set. You are so much farther ahead than any other person who might want to test a role like this out. The last piece is just the interviewing, and that's what we'll be teaching here in this upcoming workshop.
For sure. Yeah. There's a skill to it. It's a beautiful art form. And so you and I geeked out on this as well. Going back to listening to interviews with Cal Fussman, who for 30 years wrote the What I've Learned column in Esquire magazine, and it's just one of the greatest interviewers alive. And think about it too, podcasting itself has become such a force in media, and 90% of it is interviews, if not more. There's a reason for that, because when when I discover a new author, if they're still alive and active, I immediately want to go hear interview. When I discovered James Hollis, I started searching, and I feel like I learned more through him being interviewed by someone like Dan Uberman or other people, even from his books, because you're getting that back and forth, and oh, thank God he's asking the follow-up question that I'm wondering right now. And it just brings that other layer to it. So interviewing in itself, again, whether you're completely behind the scenes, and just to be clear, in really all of this content gathering, it's not like you have to become a podcast host, and you're not going to appear on camera with the founder. You're just sort of the ghost, directing the conversation, asking the good questions, and then they clip it out from there. So there is an art to the interview, but it doesn't mean that you have to be a broadcaster overnight.
And if that is what you want to do, this skill translates very easily into the next field. I've learned interviewing in general it's a good skill set to have. It makes you a better conversationalist. It makes you a better salesperson. If you're on a sales call, for example, even selling this skill for me is just about interviewing during the sales call and then helping that person to come to some understanding of their business that they didn't have before. You don't need to make a direct call to action in the sales call if you can help a person do that. And
Yeah.
so building this skill, in my opinion, is the crux of a lot of different opportunities for writers who are looking to make a pivot with
Yeah,
AI on the scene.
for sure.
And that's the course. You can read the rest of this on the sales page. We're going to basically be teaching this interviewing course. It's going to have 3 parts. I'm going to show you what I do before the interview to prepare. I'm going to show you how to run the interview, what to do in the middle of the interview, how to pull out those human questions, a bunch of frameworks for thinking about AI, thinking about your transcript as a prompt, for example, and other things that I've learned across the last year of working on all of this. And then we'll also be immediately helping everyone to implement this, because the whole point is we have hiring partners who are looking for ghostwriters. What they need to see often is the fact that you can interview well and the fact that you can write well from that interview. They like to see good content come out of a solid conversation. So we're going to teach you how to do that. We're going to have editors in there helping all of you be able to find your voice and find the way that you write best. So we're not just going to be teaching the skill set, but having an immediate place where you can put that into action.
Yeah, and we're also going to pair people up together in the workshop to interview each other. So you actually get to go through this process with somebody else who's learning, and then you get all that content about your business that you can turn around and post yourself to, promote your own service and business.
Yeah,
So
it's going to be a lot of fun.
really excited about that. And so this is very much, and anybody who's been a part of my programs knows this is always how I prefer to teach: hands-on, help you through every step of it. And it helps us, this being the maiden voyage of this course, Lola, understand where people get stuck in ways we might not have expected, and adjust in real time along the way, so everybody comes out the other side feeling confident to go forward and make this a service they promote for themselves and sell to
And I
a
think
new kind of client.
that's the point. We're in this together. I don't have secret information. I've been figuring out the same stuff everyone else has. I think I have a couple things that might be valuable to other writers. I know that y'all have things that are valuable for me as well. So it's going to be a team effort. We'll be working together. We'll be engaging with clients and other people who are looking for writers in this space, and we'll all be working on becoming better interviewers and better writers at the same time.
Yep. And it'll be fun as always, because that's what we do.
It is a
So
little competition.
yeah, little competition, and there is a grand prize. So somebody's basically going to get their money back for learning this. I'm going to hire somebody to do this process with me and pay them $500 to do it. and give them a glowing testimonial to help kick off their service. They can legitimize it, use me as a case study, as a client, and that'll certainly help open some doors. So we're
And
really, yeah,
not to mention you have a lot of great stories. So if someone is wanting the opportunity to talk to someone who's very easy to interview, easy to get stories out of, and has a business that you probably know pretty well, that means that the story you write, the content you create for Kevin will be published on his
yeah,
social media and on the platforms that he has. So definitely a massive opportunity for any of you who want to get your name out within the copywriting community as well.
for sure. All right. Thank you, Lola. Appreciate it. And everybody, if you have questions, you can email us directly. Just email kevin@copychief.com. We'll make sure your questions get answered. And really excited to get roll up our sleeves and get in the trench with you. So we'll see you there.
See you inside.